Welcome back. It is season 2 of the Essence Show and podcast, and we are kicking off this season with some yummy, juicy foundations. This is the baseline for what you need to know for working like a woman in 2024 and beyond to completely revolutionize the way you do success. So tune in, join along, make sure you hit that follow and subscribe button so that you stay up to date as we continue to expand throughout this year. And let's get started. Welcome back, my loves. I am so excited to be diving back into the show after a month-long hiatus, which was honestly so necessary and so needed, as we will discuss today. There are seasons that we live through as human beings, and personally, I was in my season of rest and regeneration, still am, but in a different way. And we can dive into that more and more as we go deeper into all of the beautiful topics that we're going to be uncovering this year in season 2 of the Essence Show and podcast. But it was really so lovely to take that step back, to really listen to my body, the intuition coming from my womb space, to pause and to come back to this show and what I want to share with you this year, feeling really refreshed, feeling like there's a new level of knowledge and wisdom and information that I want to share with you. And I think that goes for anything and anyone as we're creating in our lives. We really never want to be doing it from this place of, oh, I have to, or I must, or I need to. And of course, there are certain things that are commitments and responsibilities, et cetera, don't even want to get into that right now, that we feel like we need to show up for. But the underlying energy always wants to come from this place of, ooh, yeah, wouldn't that be yummy? So if you have the opportunity to adjust when things don't feel that yummy, that's going to be that sign of things are resisting. There's some sort of friction that's not helping me move forward. It's blocking me in some way. If you can take that step back and pause, it's going to create the space for you to really come back to what it is that you're wanting to do or create with a complete new sense of clarity, which is really what I feel like I'm bringing this season. So I'm so psyched to have you here. If you're new here, welcome to the Essence Show and podcast. We are here to revolutionize the way that you do success. And as we're going to talk about today, the way that we've been taught to work as women was not made with us in mind. The 9 to 5, my darling, was not made for you, okay? And that's what we're really unpacking today. So if you are new here and you're like, I don't understand this, what is she talking about? Please tell me more, et cetera, you are in the right place. Make sure you follow along. Make sure you hit subscribe. Whether you're listening on a podcast platform like Spotify, Apple, Google, etc., wherever you listen to your podcast, hit that follow button. If you want to follow along on the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe here, and know that you can always leave comments to ask your questions. And it's always so deeply appreciated when you send me a personal message or leave a rating and review. It really helps our show reach more people and connect this wisdom and knowledge, which is what we're here to do, to revolutionize the way we work with so many more people. So thank you for being here. Thank you for doing that. So today we're going to talk about how the 9 to 5 was not made with you in mind. And why are we then forcing and coercing ourselves into this way of working that doesn't work for us? And this is really the foundation, like I mentioned earlier, to everything that we talk about here at OFlow, everything that I talk about with my one-on-one clients, how we talk about working like a woman. This all comes down to needing to revolutionize the way that the current structures that are in place are actually harming our expansion and the actual success and the way that we're meant to create that success. So I really want to kick off with this episode as well, because this is going to build on everything else that we dive into in season 2 of this podcast. And this is going to give you those building blocks to really understand what is going on in our society. Why is that not working for you? Why is that maybe tying into ways in which you are burning out or overworking or feeling physical, mental, or emotional symptoms consistently in your life? And what way of working is actually more aligned with you? And how can you start embodying that in your life? So that's what we're diving into today. Like I said, this is foundations. This is going to be the baseline of what you need to know to really start activating this work in your life. So the first place to start, quite obviously, is the current situation, the things that are currently in place, the structures that we are currently working within that have been created by God knows who. We've kind of just like come to accept the things the way that they are, right? Everything that we exist within, every structure that exists, whether it's governmental, bureaucratic, societal, within your family environment, schooling, all of those structures that are in place, they have been created by someone. They're all made up. And I think that this is a really important concept to tie yourself back to really get rooted in the fact that everything that we're experiencing is a made up story. Like, why is it that we have to start work at a certain time? Why is it that we have to vote in this certain way? Why is it that we pay taxes in this certain way? Why is it that these rules and these laws are in place? And of course, this is not about whether those things are good or bad. It's just recognizing that everything that we believe in, everything that we follow, is a belief system that we've created, right? And we then create a bigger societal structure around those belief systems. And those are really important because those are the ways in which we all agree on organization. And imagine the level of chaos that would exist if we didn't have those structures in place, right? But as we start to move through life, it's really important to understand that at the end of the day, those things are simply created belief systems and structures that we follow because we choose to believe that they're true. And the reason I say this is because just because they're there and just because we've always done something a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that that is the best way to do it. Or it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best way for you to do it. So when we look at the structures of work and the way that work and the work world and the work day is set up, it is structured around the 9 to 5, right? You have a 9 to 5 job, and maybe you have a side hustle that then complements your 9 to 5, or maybe you work different hours, but the general structure is like we work 8 hours a day, we work 40 hours a week, we work 5 days a week. Like there are certain structures in place that the general Western world, and again, this changes from job to job, but generally the structure is based around this. The 9 to 5 is the structure that has been decided. And we go into the biology behind it. What comes out is that the male hormone cycle goes in a 24-hour cycle, which is beautifully complemented by the 9 to 5 work structure. And to break that down a little bit further and go back to my previous question about who created these structures, if they're just created illusions and belief systems that we have chosen to follow and pay into, well, the people who stepped into the work world first. And again, this is many thousands of years ago, but that was the role of men. Men were the quote unquote hunters. They left in order to go to their quote unquote jobs, if we're going to call it that, back in the day. And the women were the nurturers, the caregivers, the caretakers. And so fast forward through the Industrial Revolution and the last hundreds of years, the men went into the public sphere, which was the sphere of work, whereas the women were in charge of the domestic sphere. And these are very set and patriarchal gender roles that were then taught based on these spheres of where men and women, quote unquote, belong. And now I'm not saying that this is correct this way, but it's important to understand that because these were the gender roles and the structures at the time, and men went into the work world, they were ultimately the ones who were creating the structures in order to work within. So fast forward through the feminist revolution and all of the strides towards liberation that were made, good and bad, and that's maybe a conversation for a different episode, but women entered the workforce then. And as we entered the workforce and we really took our space in that workforce, what we ended up having to do without even consciously knowing it was step into the 9 to 5 cycle of work, which again is reflected in the male 24-hour hormone cycle. And as women, we don't have a 24-hour hormone cycle. We actually have a monthly cycle. And so one of the ways that I really love to describe this is that society runs on sun structure, which means the sun rises every morning, it sets every night, and it does the same thing day after day after day after day. But we as women run on moon time. And moon time is reflected and mirrored by the monthly womb cycle that you go through. That's your menstrual cycle. And the moon goes through that exact same cycle as well. So we're actually mirroring and moving with the moon. And so when we look at that structure that's in place, what the problem actually results in is that we are changing ourselves. We are trying to fit ourselves into this box of the dominant societal narrative and this way of working, which is not actually how you're meant to work. It's not working for you. And what ends up happening then, and this is a really important point that I want you to reflect on for yourself, is we start to experience the ways in which us trying to change ourselves to fit into this structure is starting to affect ourselves. And this comes up in a variety of different symptoms. We have physical symptoms, mental symptoms, and emotional symptoms that we experience on a consistent basis now in society because we are not only heightening the level of stress that we're experiencing, and this is true for men and women alike, but even more so for women as we are trying to change ourselves to fit into this way of working, this 9 to 5, 24-hour cycle that isn't actually supporting our own inner cycle and the way that our energy and our bodies want to move throughout the month. So there's actually a bigger problem and there's bigger symptoms that come out of you working in this 9 to 5 way of working, the societal structure of success that was not made with you in mind. Okay. It's not just like, oh, it wasn't made for me. And so, I have to try and fit in and it's really hard, but blah, blah, blah. No, there's actual problems. There are actual symptoms that are affecting you because you're changing yourself and coercing yourself to try and fit into this way of working. And let's just briefly talk about a few of them, but I really want you to reflect and see what's coming up for you right now. Most importantly, however, just understanding that when you work against your body, inevitably, you're going to create dis-ease in your body. And that can show up on a physical plane, a mental or emotional level as well. And when you create dis-ease in your body, what that is telling you with any of the symptoms that I share right now, it is telling you that there is a misalignment. And when there's a misalignment, you can almost think of it like a blockage or a dam in a river. And what happens when there's a blockage or a dam in a river is that the river doesn't flow right? There's some sort of build up or backlog and things start to get clogged up. And if we're thinking about this metaphorically and energetically in relation to success, then that actually means that your success is being blocked. It's being clogged because your body and your mind and your body are basically working against each other. Or your body itself, this vehicle that's meant to take you to success, is saying, like, hey, here's how we actually want to work. And you're saying, no, but this is how so and so told me to work. This is how my work is structured. This is how my corporate work environment is structured. This is how I'm setting up my business. And you are choosing this one belief system of how to work, which wasn't made with you in mind, simply because that's all we know. And that's okay. But your body then on the other side is saying, hey, there's actually something better that we could be doing together. And in order to get your attention, it then brings up these symptoms. So let's break some of them down. Some physical symptoms that you might be experiencing that relate to this, that is your body communicating with you, are adrenal fatigue, low energy levels, exhaustion, chronic pain, chronic acne or just acne, hormonal acne as well, periods that are irregular, painful periods, a low or weak immune system, so feeling literally like you're getting sick all the time or really easily, insomnia, so not being able to fall asleep, not being able to stay asleep, and digestive issues. Those are just a few, okay? Some of the mental symptoms you might be experiencing are stress and anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, overthinking, sabotaging opportunities, again, creating a mental buildup or blockage. And ultimately, this results in a deregulated nervous system because you're just working on overdrive all the time, needing to be busy or you're constantly stressed or anxious about things. And so there's no pause. Your nervous system is always on. And ultimately, these symptoms, like I said before, are really important communication signs from your body, letting you know that something is not aligned. These are not normal. And we've been taught, especially in the 9 to 5 hustle culture, that these symptoms are just part of success. And they are not. They are signs and communication from your body that something is not in alignment, that is blocking your flow and ultimately blocking the results that you want. So, most importantly, your symptoms here are actually affecting your results because you can't be the most productive version of yourself and the most focused version of yourself and get the most clarity and problem solving downloads when you're feeling all of these things, right? And if you truly do want to be the woman who has it all, if you want to be that girl, if you feel like you're high achieving, but you're like, I want to be high achieving in a way that actually serves me at the end of the day because you are here to live your life, then what you want to do is work in a way that's aligned with your body. And I'm assuming you want to do that because that is probably why you're listening here to this podcast right now. And I'm going to be going into all of this more in next week's episode. So stay tuned for that if this has resonated with you and you want to uncover more about where these come from and how you can heal them. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. This is the foundation for working like a woman. This is going to be like your kickoff episode for everything else that we do here on the Essence Show and podcast for the upcoming season and the upcoming year. So learn it, live it, love it. This is where we begin to start working like women. And I'm so grateful to have you here along for the ride. Till next time.